After being forced to make an emergency repair in Buda, we stayed a short while on a beautiful little anchorage on the island of Landigode. The wind was forecast to pick up later in the evening, so we slept during the day and got ready to leave around 2000 for the sail over to Lofoten. We'd usually try and avoid arriving at an unknown anchorage or dock in the dark. That's one of the great things about sailing up here in the summer. It doesn't get dark, so you don't need to factor that in for when you need to set off or arrive. You can just set sail when the wind and the tides are right.
As predicted, the wind started to pick up in the early evening, so we raised the anchor and left the island behind. We were continuing to make our way further up the Norwegian coast before attempting to cross the Barents Sea to try and get to Svalbard. We left the anchorage at Landigode and initially headed for the small fishing village of Storvagen 50 miles away. This small village is on the island of Moskensøya, which makes up part of the archipelago known as Lofoten. These islands collectively stick out 50 miles from the northwest coast of Norway, and it's definitely a must stop for us to try and finally get some climbing done.
There had been very little wind in the last few days, and this combined with the now building conditions coming from the northeast meant the sea state was calm and it enabled us to keep up some good speed. With all our crap on board and full water and fuel tanks, Harife weighs in at over 13 tonnes. Though for the displacement she's no slouch, we're definitely not a fast boat when compared to most modern designs. We're not usually too concerned with our maximum top speed, though on this 50-mile sail over to Lofoten she managed to maintain an average speed of just over 8 knots. We were pretty pleased about that.
We only had a brief stay in this pretty village before moving on a short way up the coast to the town of Rein, which is one of the most popular destinations in Lofoten. As it's still very early in the summer season, hopefully it won't be too busy yet. These traditional cod drying racks are abundant in the area, though at this time of year they've mainly been emptied by now, and I'm pretty sure that this one on the edge of town has just been left for the tourists to photograph.
Even if you're unfamiliar with Lofoten, you may well recognise the view from up here, as it's one of the most photographed in the area, and it's probably popped up as one of your auto screensavers at some point. This view has been described by many of the guidebooks and travel websites as the most scenic view in the whole of Norway. Now, I'm usually a skeptic when it comes to such sweeping statements, as it's a very subjective thing, but in this case, it's certainly up there near the top of our list.
The forecast for the next week or so looks as though the temperature's going to rise a little due to a few small high pressure systems that are moving through. These will, however, bring with them some more spells of wet weather. One of the main reasons we wanted to come here was to climb, and so we head to the village of Henningsvær. Situated on a small island, this is undoubtedly the rock climbing capital of Lofoten, and it's within walking distance of some of the best climbing in the whole of Norway. Though on this day, the forecast was mixed and it predicted showers, we were keen to get in as many climbing days as we could. As we'd already arrived a little later than planned, we didn't have as much time to spend here as we wanted, so we sorted out our gear and made our way a few miles up the road to Pianoraken for some easy multi-pitch climbing.
The weather so far was holding out. I racked up and led the first pitch of the day. We were still dusting off the cobwebs after not being able to get much climbing done recently, but the temperature was good and the rock was great. As we got to the start of the fifth pitch on this route, the heavens unfortunately opened and the rain started, so we opted to bail out and abseil back down to the bottom.
Lofoten is an amazing place, and we were really sorry we couldn't have spent more time here on this trip. No matter whether you're a sailor, a climber, if you kayak, mountain bike, walk, or just want to sit back and do nothing, whatever it is that you're into, you need to put this place on your list. In fact, the whole of Norway has exceeded our expectations in every way. It's proved to be a much more accessible destination than we initially thought. We've so far seen such a tiny part, and we've had to sail past so many places we would have loved to have stopped at. The problem we've had has been deciding where to miss out, not where to go.
We make our way up the north side of Lofoten through the fjord that splits two of the larger islands and head to a quiet looking anchorage we spotted on the chart. The weather is starting to warm up and there's a heatwave forecast over the next week or so. This isn't ideal for sailing, and as we need to get to Tromsø soon, it means we might have to use the engine more than we would like. But it does mean we can relax and enjoy the sun, in what has to be one of the most beautiful anchorages we have found yet.
Now, when we were planning on coming here, a friend of ours asked, why would you want to go to Norway? Well, I think just looking at this should answer that question. It's actually 27 degrees centigrade here today, and I can't think of many places we have ever been to that you'd be able to find an anchorage like this and be left on your own. Imagine if this was in the Med or the Caribbean. It'd be wall-to-wall catamarans as far as the eye could see.
Watch the next video as we get to Tromsø and prepare the boat for our attempt at crossing the Barents Sea and as we explore the most remote island in the whole of the Arctic.